Field sobriety tests are a tool used by law enforcement to determine if a subject, somebody who's been driving a car, is under the influence of alcohol. It's just a set of tools for them to use. You know, it's called a test, field sobriety test, but it's not really a test because there is no pass or fail. You're going to fail, period. They're only doing it to look for clues. They're looking for clues in how you perform on those tests, and then based on that, they can use that as evidence against you. There are a whole bunch of field sobriety tests that are recognized and seen as valid, and different law enforcement agencies will use different ones depending on, I guess, the jurisdiction. The three most common ones are the one leg stand, walk and turn, and the horizontal gaze nystagmus. I'm not going to get too much into those. Those are the three most common and most recognized. What am I doing as your lawyer? What can I do if we've got some field sobriety tests and they're on video? How can I use that to help you, to defend you? I mean, first of all, these are called standardized field sobriety tests. They're standardized, which meant they must be administered the same way each time by the cop. Like, they are trained. They receive many hours of training in these, and they are to give you, the police officer runs through this whole series of information with you, gives you his whole set of instructions on how to do these tests, and you're supposed to retain all that and then execute in usually a pretty stressful situation, right? So right there, you're behind the curve, and being standardized, they must administer it exactly by the book. Okay, it's got to be done by the book. So if they deviate that from in any way, that could potentially help you. That could call into question how you performed on those tests, because what they're looking for is a correlation between how you did on the test and your consumption of alcohol. But with these things, with these field sobriety tests, I mean, there could be factors other than alcohol to explain why you didn't do as well. If you step off the line, okay, if you don't hold your foot up high enough, or you lower it, and then bring it back up. I mean, there could be factors that have nothing to do with alcohol consumption. It's no secret that perfectly sober, healthy people don't do well on these tests. Balance issues, if you have knee problems, back problems, if you're overweight, those can all be factors. So those have nothing to do with how much you drank, or if you drank anything, right? So those are things that need to be looked into on the field sobriety tests. How it was administered, was it done by the book, was something that I want to see. Could there be factors other than alcohol which explain why you didn't do well? And when I say why you didn't do well, again, it's not pass or fail. You're going to fail. What they're looking for is clues. So if they say you gave off a lot of clues, and that must mean that you were impaired, but why did you give off those clues is what I want to know. So I want to look through the video, because usually these are, and it's very helpful when they're recorded, right? When the police officer records these, both audio and video, so we can watch it and hear it later on, see exactly what was done, what was said, how you did. One thing with field sobriety tests, you're seeing nowadays, more commonly, you're seeing DUI marijuana cases, right? Not DUI alcohol. It's just becoming more common for people to be charged, arrested for DUI under the influence, not of alcohol, but of marijuana. Okay? These field sobriety tests, they were developed over 40 years ago by the federal government. They spent a lot of time, they got a lot of people involved, scientists, law enforcement experts. They took it to the lab, and that's how they came up with all these tests over 40 years ago. And they said, these are the ones that are the most accurate, the most reliable. They're going to give the best correlation between impairment by alcohol and how you perform on the tests. But it was always about alcohol with the field sobriety tests. That was the whole reason that they were created. There was never anything about marijuana. So if if you're charged with a DUI by marijuana, and they have you perform these field sobriety tests, and you give off all these clues, I mean, there's an argument to be made that, like, those tests have nothing to do with marijuana and how that affects your performance on the test, because it was never about detection of marijuana. It was always about detection of alcohol. So I think there's a good argument to be made. So that's something that's special about marijuana cases, marijuana driving cases. Anyway, I mean, that's a brief overview. There's a whole lot more we could get into, and I'd have to talk to you about your case. But those are some things to think about. That's just kind of an overview, of how I attack field sobriety tests. Those are the things that I keep in mind. But I want to hear about your case. If you've been charged with drunk driving, give me a call.